Today's recipe calls for cranberries. We're making cranberry orange muffins. This is great to have around at the holiday season for breakfast or just to have as a little snack. So with that said, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is preheat our oven to 425 while we get our muffins ready. Next, in a stand mixer or a hand mixer, whichever you have, you're going to add half a cup of unsalted room temperature butter. We're going to turn that on to medium speed and let that butter cream on its own before we add the next set of ingredients. We're going to scrape the bowl down multiple times throughout this recipe, but don't worry, I'll remind you. So we'll turn our mixer off so we can add the next set of ingredients. First, we're going to add a quarter cup of brown sugar and half a cup of granulated sugar. We'll turn that mixer back on, let the butter and sugar cream together for about 2 minutes. We'll go ahead and scrape down the sides of our bowl and the bottom of our bowl just to make sure everything gets well mixed and well incorporated together. And we'll turn our mixer back on before we add the next set of ingredients. Next, we're going to add 2 large eggs at room temperature, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and half a cup of yogurt. The recipe calls for plain yogurt, but I went with a vanilla yogurt. Either or works. The yogurt helps prevent the muffins from drying out during the baking process. So then we'll turn our mixer back on to about medium speed just to make sure everything gets well incorporated. Let that mix for about a minute or two, or until everything looks well incorporated. So we'll scrape our bowl again, sides. And the bottom of our bowl. Next, we're going to zest 2 oranges. I have a microplane, or you can use a box grater. Whichever you have available to you will work. When zesting, make sure just to get the orange zest. You do not want any of the white part of the orange because that is bitter and it'll ruin your muffins. And we'll turn our mixer back on to get all the ingredients incorporated. We'll let that go for about a minute. This is what our batter should look like. Next, we're going to juice our oranges. Go ahead and use a serrated knife and just any container and juice your oranges. You can use a strainer if you would like to make sure you don't get any pulp or any orange pieces. We'll juice both of our oranges. Next, in a large bowl, we'll add all of our dry ingredients. We'll start with 1 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt, and half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Once that's all in the bowl, we'll use a whisk and mix it all together. Now that everything's well incorporated, we'll move to the next step. We'll grab our wet ingredients and add everything to our dry ingredients. Make sure to scrape down the bowl. You don't want to leave any of the good stuff behind. Now that all of our wet ingredients are in our bowl, we'll go ahead and mix everything all together. I made the mistake of using the whisk, which then our batter is going to get clumped up inside the whisk. So instead of using the whisk, it's better to use the rubber spatula to fold everything in together. So our batter does look a little dry, but don't worry. Keep folding until everything's well incorporated together. Once everything looks like it's well incorporated, we'll move on to the next step. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of milk. You can use any kind. And 2 tablespoons of our fresh orange juice. Now we'll fold that all together. Once that's added in, your batter will look a lot better than what it did before. So we'll just keep folding until everything's well incorporated. Just turning and flipping the batter on itself. Next, we're going to add 1 1/2 cup of cranberries. You can either use fresh or dried like I did. Either or will work. I like the dried because it's a little bit easier. Then we'll go ahead and fold all of our cranberries into our batter. This is what our batter should look like. Next, we'll get our muffin pan ready. You can spray it down, or you can use the muffin cups like I did here. Once your muffin pan's well lined, we'll get our batter bag. And you can either use a spoon, like I have, or use a tablespoon. And you're going to fill each cup pretty full. You don't have to worry about it overflowing. And this is what it should look like. Now we'll throw our muffins in and let them bake for 5 minutes at 425. After 5 minutes, we're going to turn our oven down to 350. Go ahead and leave your muffins in. We're going to bake them for another 18 to 20 minutes. Next, we'll grab a bowl. We're going to add 1 cup of powdered sugar, and 3 tablespoons are freshly squeezed orange juice. I added a little bit at first, and then I'm going to go ahead and whisk that together before I add the remaining orange juice. Now I'll add the rest of our orange juice. And I'm going to whisk until everything is combined and we make our glaze. This is what our glaze should look like. Now that we made our glaze for the muffins, we can start on the dishes, but who wants to do that anyways? You can like this video, subscribe, comment down below, and also find me on Instagram at TaylorMakes92. We'll see you here in a few. So this is what our muffins look like after 20 minutes. They look pretty good. After they've rested for 5 minutes, we're going to grab a spoon and our glaze, and we're just going to glaze all of our muffins. The muffins will soak up a little bit of our glaze. After everything's glazed, we're going to let them rest before we try them. Alright, our muffin is finally done, so let's give it a try. I did 20 minutes. It came out a little bit darker than I anticipated. I would probably go maybe 18 minutes instead of the full 20. But overall, it still looks good. Take this off. So the outside's nice and crunchy, but the center is still soft, full of texture, nice and moist still. This is full of flavor, a lot of orange, of course, but it's really good. I like it. The center's nice and soft. And it's really not too sweet. And the acid and the orange zest cuts through the sweetness. So, we're finally done. Now it's time to do those dishes. Who wants to do those? I don't. Pro tip though, make sure to clean your bowls fairly soon after you make this recipe, because if you let that batter harden in your bowls, it's going to be a lot harder to clean later. And who wants to spend more time doing dishes when you can enjoy these really good muffins? So if you liked today's video, please like, subscribe, comment down below, and also find me on Instagram at TaylorMakes92, and I'll see you on the next one.